barely a week after President Nkurunziza asked Burundians who fled the country to neighboring countries. After he asked them to return home, some have actually gone ahead to heed to that call. This latest violence in Burundi is one which has led to the loss of hundreds of lives and the displacement of well over 180,000 people. It all began in April when President Nkurunziza of Burundi made known his intentions to run for a third term as president. As things stand now, a new cabinet has been sworn in, with some members of the opposition drawing criticism from other opponents who say the ministers had no legitimacy after disputed elections. Well, one of such Burundians who has gone ahead to heed that call and return to the Burundian capital of Bujumbura is Mr. Jean-Regis Nduimana, who is a university lecturer. He joins us now from the capital of Burundi. Mr. Nduimana, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure. Now, we're glad to know that you're home. What did you hear about President Nkurunziza asking Burundians like yourself to return? And was that what prompted you to go back home?
The situation is not that easy, but as we assume that since Nkurunziza has what he wants, so that is, he is willing to make up a peace environment, a peaceful environment. That's why everyone is like, okay, let's try to go home, to go back home, to make so that we can back to our work. So we assuming that Nkurunziza is gonna make a peaceful environment. Otherwise, people will flee the country once anymore.
Well, Mr. Nduimana, I know I spoke to you this morning and you did tell me that things seem to be looking like they're back to normal. Is that still the case?
No, it is still the case since we don't have like those direct conflict between anti-FETM and the port. In the night, there is no more any shooting at police or grenade being thrown to the police guys. But what we fear today is some to be arrested by the secret services. That's the most fearful thing because it is happening now. If you are targeted, you can be killed. If you are targeted, you can be arrested. But there's no such direct conflict between anti-FETM guys and the police.
So based on the conversation we had earlier on, I believe schools are reopening pretty soon and you might be going back to continue lectures. Does that still look like it might be happening sometime next week?
Yeah. Some universities have even started to classes. Even in my class, is supposed to start by next week. But in Burundi, every day happened in the daily basis. You never know. You can't predict what's going to happen tomorrow. But from next week, we should be going normally on class.
Oh, indeed, we can't predict, but we do wish you well. Thank you so much for joining us, Mr. Nduimana. Thank you very much. Mr. Jean-Regis Nduimana reporting from the Burundian capital of Bujumbura. Now, things seem to be looking good for the world's newest country, as we understand that South Sudan's President Salva Kiir will sign a peace deal tomorrow in the capital, Juba, in the presence of regional leaders. According to his press secretary, that's Ateni Wake Ateni, President Kiir, who declined to sign the deal last week, will be signing this deal after having made some more consultations. His refusal to sign the deal to end the 18-month civil war was described as a mind-boggling decision by the chief mediator, but this is indeed some good news for the world's newest country. Well, indeed, it's not too often that we blow our own horns right here on Channels Television, but this is an exception when we must, in fact, do that. Channels Television has successfully signed a memorandum of understanding with the United Nations on news coverage. The chairman, CEO of Channels Television, Mr. John Momo, on behalf of the award-winning television station, thanked Mr. Ban Ki-moon, who is the UN Secretary General, and also the United Nations and all those who have taken part in making sure that the MOU came about.
Mr. John Momo, it's a great pleasure for me to deliver a very important project which have been discussing and agreed between the Department of Public Information of the United Nations and the Channels Television. And I hope that through this joint project, we'll be able to convey the good messages to many people around the world. I hope also that the UN TV will be able to have a good cooperation with the Channels TV. And I wish you all the best. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you. Thank
you. Pleasure. Thank you. Just want to say, Secretary General, that I'm very delighted. On behalf of Channels TV, I'd like to thank you and the United Nations and all those who have taken part in making sure that the MOU came about. We're very, very, very happy to be in this partnership, and rest assured that we will be aligned with the maxim that you have on the website, which says we've got it all covered. That's by the United Nations. Channels has got it all covered for you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much
indeed.
Thank you very much.
The Chairman and CEO of Channels Television, Mr. John Momo, with the UN Secretary General, Mr. Ban Ki-moon. Well, for more on this newly signed Memorandum of Understanding, we go live to London, where the General Manager Operations of Channels Television, Mr. Kayode Akintemi, is standing by to tell us more about this significant developments. Mr. Akintemi, thank you very much for joining us on the program.
Thank you very much, Cynthia. It's a pleasure to be able to talk on your program.
Indeed it is. I'd just like to ask you, how significant is this Memorandum of Understanding?
Well, it's an extremely important one, but first let me just very quickly sum it up by saying that it's the result of about 1 year of work, of negotiation, of conversation, because the United Nations is extremely careful about picking partners in any part of the world. And to have picked Channels Television, to have come to a decision that an MOU will be signed with Channels Television is one that is a sign of the fact that they have picked right, and a sign of the fact that Channels has done the right thing all the way through our conversation with them. But this is an extremely significant MOU that has been signed between the United Nations and Channels Television. More so because we are a news television station. We cover Nigeria like no other TV station in the country. And what they want from this relationship is to be able to say that they have everything covered. If there is any event of the United Nations happening in Nigeria, they'd like it covered. They want to be able to share that. They want to be able to use it for United Nations purposes.
Well, besides the coverage of such events, I'd like to ask more questions about what more the United Nations gets out of this Memorandum of Understanding.
Well, part of the most important things for United Nations is to know what is happening all around the world, to be able to have an insight into some of these things. And then on the flip side of this is the fact that they're very keen to be in a position where they can share information coming from the United Nations General Assembly, from all the different committees, share information about what is happening in Africa, because the United Nations is one organization that depends a lot on information. They cannot do any of the things that they do without adequate information, without the right kind of information. And fortunately for them, Channels Television prides itself in being able to disseminate information and making sure that we stand on the side of truth all the time.
Well, Mr. Kayode Akintemi, thank you very much for clearing that up. We appreciate your time. Thank you so much for joining us on Network Africa.
Thank you very much, Cynthia.
The General Manager Operations for Channels Television, Mr. Kayode Akintemi. Now to other matters. Fishing communities in Mozambique are learning to make the most of a land rich with resources, and they're now arming themselves against diseases at the same time. One of the key elements is better nutrition.
In this village, new recipes are being introduced to edify diets. These women are preparing dishes made out of moringa leaves, a nutritious and tasty local herb, for lunch. Until recently, moringa's highly nutritious properties were unknown here, and it wasn't eaten as a staple. Now, it's a very popular addition to the local cuisine. The International Fund for Agricultural Development, or IFAD, is spreading awareness about the importance of a varied diet. Trained volunteers from the community share tips on healthier living and recipes for more nutritious meals. Maria Machambe and her family are among the beneficiaries of the program. She's been a regular participant in cookery demonstrations held in the village to introduce alternative meals for families.
We learned how to change our eating habits, so we learned that one day we do beans and fish, then another day porridge, and different dishes during the week based on the recipes we learned. There is now a reduction in disease, and the kids are not so sick so often.
So far, over 4,000 people have been taught new recipes, which have also sparked new ideas for meals amongst the local population.
They share their ideas with their neighbors, and everyone gets excited. And so it is this excitement of owning this process, and people suddenly say, oh yes, there is an option, the food tastes better.
According to IFAD, along with helping improve the residents' diets, the program has also helped fishermen learn how to improve their incomes and fishing methods.
I have been fishing a long time, and we used to take everything we could from the sea: undersized fish, coral. We use mosquito nets, but we've learned to stop doing that. Now we've learned how to get big, high-value fish, which we get more money for, and leave the undersized ones to grow.
But keeping the community prospering and healthy means also helping it tackle some of the endemic diseases such as HIV/AIDS. According to UNAIDS, Mozambique's HIV prevalence rate is the 10th highest in the world.
And on that note, we've come to the end of this episode of Network Africa. Many thanks for watching. Feel free to send us your feedback either via email or Twitter. The address and handle are right there on your screen. As always, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for watching Network Africa right here on Channels Television. I'm Cynthia Are.